Man, that intro, this menu is just, I can't get over it. I love it so much. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to the House of Fata Morgana. Wait for you to say, wasn't there a finale last week? Yes, there was. We finished the story. As a matter of fact, it took 51 hours to do so. Now, I don't know how much of that was active gameplay. There's times where I had the game open, but I'm not actively doing anything with it. Either like, you know, getting some information or saving files or whatnot, but still, 51 hours, pretty respectable. What an awesome game. Now, as I mentioned last time, you all have been screaming at me. There's stuff to do in the extra, and we're going to be doing some of the stuff in the extra. So that's what today's episode is. This is the bonus episode. We're just going to be putting everything we can into it. It should be about an hour's worth of content, so it should be just long enough for a full episode here. And then, you know, we'll wrap things up for this series, which is sad. And thank you for your patience, by the way. So last week I got sick, and naturally we're in a situation where anytime you get sick, red flags everywhere. And it didn't help that I had some tightness in my chest from breathing. I had a lot of weariness. I never had a fever or threw up, but I just had enough symptoms that people were freaking out, right? So I got tested. Thankfully, no, wasn't anything super serious, but I just got sick because, you know, who'd have thunk? People can just get sick from normal stuff still. You know, it feels like the whole world's revolving around, you know, a very specific illness, but all the other ones are still out there too. So I got unlucky and caught this super cold or whatever. I was out of it for like the whole week. I only started feeling better like yesterday, but now that I'm feeling good, I'm like, yes, let's get back to it. So thank you for your patience. Let's just jump into it. So last time we go into extras. I did a little snooping around. There's a lot of cool stuff. Ending list, chapter select. I can hit all the endings. I guess yeah, I'm gonna have to, like, but the most thing more important for here is sort of backstage. If there are anything else that's really secretive, I might have to dive into it like later as I fully explore the game. But we're gonna do the backstage adventure and we're gonna see how it goes. Oh, the music's so good. I love this game. Alright, so who are we gonna be following here? I have no idea what voice I'm doing here, but let's just go for it. Excuse me, what are you doing here? Yes, you. Oh, hey, Morgana. I wish I knew how all these invited souls kept finding their way to my mansion. Well, never mind that for now. I like Morgana. She's so cold, but she's also really pretty. The fact that you're here means you've uncovered all the mansion's mysteries, yes? My congratulations for having the fortitude to endure such a grim tale. I would ask you what you thought of it, but unfortunately that is beyond even my powers. Since you're here, though, how would you like to take a little tour of the house? That is, if you're willing to take this hand. You've got a strong stomach, at least. Before we begin our little trek, I would like to emphasize that this is, as the title implies, a look behind the curtain of the House of Fata Morgana. If you just completed the game and would like some time to dwell on it, you are welcome to head back now. You know what, that's actually really cool that they actually point that out, because of the way I do this, I got to sit and think about this, thankfully for 2 weeks. And man, it officially has joined the top ranks of one of the visual novels I most highly recommend. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a little side project with a group of people, and we were discussing writing, and specifically character writing, and trying to write a narrative in conjunction with a story being told to a video game player. And I actually pointed out visual novels, saying like, look, visual novels have that in spades. I highly recommend you check them out if you want to see some case studies in ways we could consider writing some plot. And I recommended very specifically The House of Fata Morgana, because I felt like it was hit a lot of notes, and it was something that I think it could be a great case study. As a matter of fact, I'm planning on going back to school, but I don't have any more English classes to take for graduation, so I can't do this. But if I had the opportunity, I would love to write an analytical essay on The House of Fata Morgana. It's such a great story. It'll be so interesting to look at. If any of you are studying psychology or English or anything like that, and you happen to be looking for a blast of inspiration for a paper to write, I submit House of Fata Morgana. And if you do it, I would love to read a copy of it when you finish it. I'd love to see what your take is on something like this. And also, if you happen to know of any analyses of this game that you think are really interesting and profound, absolutely share a link with them. If you put it in the comments below, it might not appear right away because I have to like approve it, but I'll keep an eye out for it. And then you can also just post it in the Discord group that you can find linked in the description, and I would love to have a peek at it there too. So yeah, if you're aware of any of that, let me know. Maybe maybe I could write my own. Maybe I'll consider that. I don't have a ton of free time, but I could consider that. It's sad to say I have my free time's gone. Like I'm running like a D&D game. I'm playing in a D&D game. I do my channel stuff, and like I'm working on like a writing project. Actually, technically two, because there's a personal one, then there's the other one I've signed up on, and there's a lot going on. So might not be something I can do right away, but it's something I want to consider doing in the future. Anyway. But should you choose to continue, I encourage you to do so knowing that what you're about to read does not in any way respect the tone of the game proper. Oh, okay, interesting. You'll be making your way into the heads of the staff themselves, and I promise you, it's not a pretty sight. You'll see people who shouldn't be here, things that contradict the events of the game, a general sense of pandemonium. You'd do best not to think much of any of it. Really interesting. That said, I would prefer not to have to guide you around the house all by myself. Not because I have anything in particular against you, of course. I simply think it would be inappropriate for him not to accompany us. Yes, him, the story's protagonist. Let us be off, then. Interesting. Ah, I found another split end. Look, this one's split into 3. I don't know why you're so excited about split ends. If my hair's such a mess, maybe I should just cut it all off. I'm not particularly attached to having long hair. I'm not sure how I feel about that idea. I quite enjoy playing with your hair myself. Says the woman who once called me a hair monster. I didn't actually mean it that. I was just, a little overwhelmed at the time. And how about unexpectedly handsome you were, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. I hope you two sickening lovebirds spontaneously combust. Hey, what was that for? And be careful what you wish for, quite literally. We might actually go up in flames. How long have you been standing there, Morgana? As the true master of this house, I am everywhere at all times. Even in the bathrooms. That's a little creepy. Don't worry. When I was in her position, I closed my eyes and plugged my ears if you were ever doing your business. I think enough toilet humor for the time being. Especially in front of our guest. You're the one who brought that up. Wait, what guest? Oh, you can't see the soul beside me? That's quite a shame. Could they be who was watching over us? I had better give them my thanks then. Unfortunately, I can't see you there, but either way, thank you very much for accompanying us to the end of our story. Go on, Michelle. Go on, you thank them too.
Thanks.
You are the protagonist. Surely you can do better than that.
Could you really consider me the protagonist? Absolutely.
What? Did you hit your head and lose your memories again?
I just never really seemed that way to me.
I understand that. You didn't become an active participant in the story until the end of chapter 4, Michelle. In some ways, you could call the 4 chapters an extended prologue. But once you reclaim yourself, you were most definitely playing the protagonist. Especially the final chapter. You had me swooning by the end.
Sure. Thanks.
I'm going to bring Michelle with me, and only Michelle. Aww, what about me? Because with you around, he turns into a lovesick, airheaded dope. He's about as useful to me as a wet paper sack full of potatoes. That's harsh, Morgana. Come on, get moving. I can actually kind of feel like I'm still like in kind of recovery. Like I don't have any symptoms, but it's affecting my throat. I'm not doing the voices as clearly, so forgive me. It's not going to be smooth. Are you sure I can't come with you? Absolutely not. You spoil him in more ways than one. What are we going to do, though? What do you think, my dear? What are my what any related bleh, let me try that again. What any respectable behind-the-scenes extra would do, of course. We're going to visit each room in the mansion and faff around like a bunch of fools. That sounds like a lot of spent a lot of thousands of lines talking trash about Michelle to me. I seem to recall plenty of faffing about in the main game anyway. Why don't we do something we couldn't do there? Ah, I have just the thing. Here, they're cue cards. Cue cards? They've got profiles and other miscellaneous notes from the creators about each of the characters. I thought they might come in handy. I can see them being useful, yes. But why exactly do you have those? Apparently, it's the maid's job to give a star of the show his notes. Is that a fact? If I'm not mistaken, the maid had cue cards in the other extra as well. I'd rather pretend those miniaturized things were not actually us. I can't help but feel the creators are screwing with us at some level. What is that referencing, I'm guessing? I must have missed something. Actually, since we're here, maybe we should start with the two of you before we head out. I'll read your profile, Michelle. I doubt you'll want to do it yourself, would you? Hand over the cue cards. Alright, now let's begin. This pathetic long-haired man is, believe it or not, the protagonist of the House in Fata Morgana. See, I told you this is how it would go. You can't deny a lot of readers probably didn't expect the creepy white-haired recluse to turn out to be the main character. According to this, two of the creators' goals for this game were to subvert readers' expectations and cast new light on old information to further you progress through the story. That actually makes a lot of sense. As a theme, they nailed it. Throughout the entire thing, it felt like we kept just learning and peeling back layers and seeing more and more, learning more and more. So that every situation, every person was so far from simple that you couldn't help but feel sympathy for all of them, even the ones who were terrible people. You two are probably the most obvious examples of that. Don't forget about yourself, Morgana. Even before the focal point of the game, my story was revealed. There were examples of lines or events taking on new meaning as each of the first three chapters developed. Though perhaps there are some people whose interpretations did not change throughout the course of the tales. That is true. At first, Mel seemed like a fairly likable young man, but by the end of his chapter, he had revealed himself as a helpless, worthless child. The second chapter was pretty crazy, too. When we found out about, ukulele, that was it. No, that was not how you pronounce his name. As I recall, it's eucalyptus. You already made that joke. Let it go, please. That creature doesn't need a name. Just call him the Beast. Chapter 3 was something else, too. My impression of Jacopo and Maria had completely turned around by the end. In the end of that chapter, you learn what kind of man he really was, which then ties into the revelations in the final chapter. Piles of human garbage, the three of them. But we'll go into more detail about them later. Right now, it's Michelle's turn. The core aspect of his characters are justice and righteousness. What? I don't think he agrees. Why are you looking at me like I just told you the sky is purple? I wasn't expecting something so flattering to come out of your mouth. Nor did I really think of myself that way. I'm hardly a paragon of virtue. That's true. Putting a knife to a woman's neck isn't very righteous.
My sincerest apologies.
You had your reasons, I know, but it was pretty terrifying at the time. I don't hold it against you, though. Anyway, while those two are the core aspects of your character, they got buried over the course of the abuse and misfortune you suffered throughout the story. Your circumstances in life forced you to repress yourself, and once you were free from those restrictions in the final chapter, you were able to act as the man you truly are, or something to that effect.
I'd say it was Giselle's influence more than anything else that got me through the final chapter. Aww. Like I said in the game, I couldn't have done it on my own.
I'm glad I could be of assistance. I really need to peel these two apart. We'll never finish if they keep making goo-goo eyes at each other at the very 10 seconds.
If that's supposed to be my character, then there's one thing I can't wrap my head around.
And what would that be?
How all the promotional material portrays me.
The staff has a fondness for being misled, the writers especially.
I take my portrait in the I take my portrayal in the demo's backstage extra. What was that all about?
Well, it was the demo. I'm sure they just didn't want to spoil the surprise. It was fun calling you my whipping boy, too. And your portrayal makes sense if we assume that Michelle there was from when the two of us lived together, when it was just the two of us living in the mansion. You were pretty damaged at that point, which was largely my fault, I suppose.
They're so callous about that.
In any event, the promotional materials are already out there, so there's nothing you can do about it. You are, for all intents and purposes, officially a NEET.
He's so a neat. Well, now that the game's over, I have a couple things I'd like to get off my chest.
And what would those be?
I never wanted to be a recluse. Alright, okay, so here's the thing that's interesting. I know it's a bit of a diversion, but here, I'm speaking now as a writer. Two writers, specifically because this was created by writers. It might seem a little odd that they're talking like they're their own characters, but they're also like self-aware that this is the game and everything. And like almost like they're actors, but they're still in their roles. If you're a writer, you probably can see and relate to this already, and I can too. Because, especially when you work on a project long enough, when you write and rewrite scenes, when you draft and you rethink and you strategize, you brainstorm, you plot line, then reevaluate and redistribute everything you're doing in your writing project. And when you put your soul into what you're writing, your characters kind of take a life of their own. I honestly think that if you could see yourself writing out a dialogue just like this between your characters, like this idea that they are somehow aware that they're characters in a story, but they still maintain their essence in the conversation, that is a sign of a true and soulful writer. That tells me that there was something personal that you put into your work, and it has taken a life of its own. These characters are speaking as themselves, but they're speaking out of character, but they're not, you know what I mean? And so, like, as a writer, I highly appreciate this. It can seem very odd, but what this is truly is it's a love expression that the writer of this visual novel, or the writers, crafted. It's a love letter to the reader. I already can tell that. The love letter is simply them talking through the voices of the characters that have become so important to them that they don't want them to be quiet. That they couldn't bear that their stories were over, despite the fact that there's not much else for us to say, except for a little bit of a glimpse of what the writers were thinking and feeling and how they worked with these characters and molded them. We're studying their cores, the inspiration that they drew from in order to actually get the character to come out of the page. And then the character was given a life of their own, a breath of the soul, and now we're seeing them reflect this in this little retelling. It's so cool. So I highly, highly recommend that you pay attention to this, because if you're not a writer and you want to be one, you want to be able to feel like you could naturally write like this, because then you truly understand your characters and you aren't dictating what they do based on what you imagine they should do in your head, but rather are being guided by who they are. Like, did Michel do what he did because it was the way the story was supposed to go? Or is it because it was part of who he was? It was him. It was who he was as a character. It was the core of justice and righteousness that had been suppressed by his early life and then rose up in the end. And we got to see, and it made sense because it was him. It was so human because a human wrote this story with passion and love.
Well said. Well said indeed.
Also, I never wanted to die a virgin.
Well said. Well said indeed.
Though I must say, it seems rather inverted to joke about either of those knowing what we know now.
Well, we were not the ones writing. We just say what we're told to.
Regardless, I can't say I'm completely satisfied, but I'm happy enough with my story was adequately explained in the game itself.
I'm genuinely impressed you can be happy about any of your story, considering the kind of hell you were put through. There were how many dead ends? And you took quite the beating on more than one occasion.
Oh yeah, you did.
A lot of that does fall on my head, I suppose.
The ending was perfect, though. Oh, it was perfect. It was so good. So yes, I'm happy.
Please, for the love of all that's holy, stop smiling. I can't see it as anything but pitiful.
Why?
Because in this story, you're the king of misfortune. Oh, that reminds me. There's something on your profile even more crucial than the core of justice and righteousness. You were apparently born under an unlucky star. And that's why, no matter what you do or where you go, you're destined to have terrible things happen to you.
Why must the universe be so cruel to me?
Well, I am the queen of misfortune, so perhaps they just wanted someone else to be as miserable as me.
Giselle had it pretty bad too.
What? You think so? I don't think I had it nearly as bad as either of you.
You spent centuries completely and utterly broken.
That's all in the past, though. I'm back to my old self now, and that's enough for me. You are unnaturally skilled at whitewashing the past. In fact, the both of you are far too forgiving. Although, I suppose that's why you ended up the hero and heroine of the story. But I'm here as the anti-heroine.
You say that like it's something to be proud of.
Well, that about covers the main character, Michel. In conclusion, he's a 27-year-old man with a head in the clouds who talks like a character out of a bad fairy tale.
What happened to all the justice and righteousness? Why couldn't you conclude with that?
He also has no sense of humor and doesn't realize that they're exactly the same.
Could you try not buttering me up only to tear me back down again? Even the inverse would be preferable.
And to top it all off, he's completely incompetent when it comes to romance.
I knew it. I knew this was how it's gonna go.
I'd rank you being made fun of number 2 in terms of where you're most interesting, Michel.
Gee, thanks. That makes me feel so much better.
Now, since we have to fall back into our usual routine, let's move on to Giselle, shall we? What? Me next? Oh, I've got butterflies in my stomach. And here, believe it or not, the heroine of the game. Why is it so hard to believe about that? Tell me, would you have ever imagined the maid with her creepy laugh was once this bubbly ball of energy? I'd rather not think about my time as the maid. I can't say I blame you. Your mind was complete mush at the time.
Ugh. If you allow me to say, the maid outfit was...
Hold your tongue, my dear.
Now
I have to ask, Giselle, where in the world did you pick up those laughably flowery speech patterns? Are you sure you want to know? Is there any reason I wouldn't? I picked it up from you, Morgana.
Wait, what?
Excuse me? Like when you were really ripping into someone, Morgana, you kind of start talking like a character in a stage play. You're calling me theatrical? You take that back.
So the maid's speech patterns were modeled after Morgana's, huh? that would definitely make sense considering the tone of the 4th chapter. It is really interesting. And I genuinely thought that she was the witch. And that parallel speech pattern was probably a big part of that.
Don't you be thinking about me, even in your head.
Not a word.
Regardless, my speech patterns and the maid share nothing in common. And you're a terrible human being for so much suggesting it. What are you smirking about? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking about the human Morgana is kind of incredibly adorable. Ah, you're blushing. Look at her, she's blushing. Oh, be quiet. Are you just going to stand there and watch as your girlfriend insults me like this, Michelle?
I have to agree, if you ask me. You are pretty adorable right now.
It's like 2 tiny little tomatoes are growing on your face. I am not blushing, and if the 2 of you don't back off, I'll cast a curse on your souls for all eternity.
It seems a bit excessive.
We seem to have gotten off track. Let's take a look at Giselle's profile now, shall we? I can't imagine there's much written there. You obviously aren't very good at judging your own character then. No sane person would spend centuries waiting for a man they only knew for a year. It isn't about the time we were together that matters. Besides, it was more complicated than that. With how we were forced to part ways, there's no way I could let it end there. Also, we are bound on a cellular level.
Really? Puns?
I think I just vomited in my mouth a little. Aw, it wasn't that bad, was it? Moving on. So, you can see, Giselle has her own fair share of baggage as well, but she's an optimistic woman, proactive about moving on. Hidden beneath the maid was a fairly classic heroine character. Giselle and the maid came about because one day the creators decided they really wanted to see a cheerful young woman turned into a broken husk of a human.
Wow. Poor Giselle.
Another thing they wanted to do with Giselle was start her out with an essentially the story's narrator, and then over the course of the game, pull her out of that position and turn her into a real character. On a somewhat
unrelated note, Giselle's portrayal, or the maid's I suppose, outside the game was possibly worse than mine.
It was. I was practically evil in the demo's backstage scene.
I'd estimate about 70% of the characters the staff tried to play off as the maid were actually Morgana.
You're making it sound like I'm evil now. That I will not stand for.
You weren't evil, but you were definitely an antagonist for a good portion of the game.
We've already established the stuff that gets off about being intentionally misleading, so let's just assume that's what it was and move on. Before I forget, there's one other important note on Giselle's profile I still need to go over. Oh, and what would that be? She has the largest breasts of anyone in the game.
Yes. It's interesting though. I think Pauline would be a heavy contender for that, but I would not doubt that Giselle would be the winner in that category.
I saw that, Michelle. You sneaked a look. I don't think you can fool me.
It's hard not to look, frankly.
You guys have no idea what it's like. My shoulders are constantly stiff. It's terrible. Well, hold on a second. Didn't it say on your profile that you prefer small boobs?
What? I never said that. Oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not a look you want to see.
And who do you think we're going to trust here? But enough of that. That's Giselle and or the maid for you. She started out the game seemingly full of secrets and possibly scheming something, and she turned out to be ideal wife material. Ideal wife material. I like the sound of that.
Why does she get so much better treatment than me? No, hang on. Here comes the twisting.
The story is supposed to be, at least to some degree, about Michelle's growth, so without Giselle around, I imagine it would have ended failing that goal spectacularly.
Most likely. The two of us kept each other going. Now I've about summed up everything I have to say about you two, so we're going to go for a little walk around the mansion. You stay here and keep yourself entertained, Giselle. I'd rather come with you.
I'm staying too.
No, you're coming. If you don't, I'll cast another curse on the 3 souls. Or do you want all of your hard work in the game to go to waste?
You don't have to threaten me. Okay, fine. I'll be there shortly, Giselle.
Have fun. I'll be here when you get back.
This is fun. This is just fun. God, you gotta admit, she's freaking gorgeous. I think, like, Giselle is really pretty, but I think Morgana takes the cake in the end. Like, I think she's the prettiest character in the game.
Here, Michelle, you can have the cue cards back. It's now your job to read off their profiles.
Do I really have to?
You might as well do something. What happened to the Michelle from the game's climax? Because right now you're like you're breathing too much effort to bother with.
I just don't think I'm the right person to be talking about other people's characters.
You might have a point. If you don't have something to keep you in check, you'll start defending anyone, no matter how heinous. You really ought to learn how to call a sinner a sinner.
Was she asleep for half the game?
Anyway, it's your job, understand?
Well, whatever.
Let's get going then, shall we? We'll start by visiting the 3 men we instigated my curse. And I think I'll let you, our guest, decide the order. Now go on, take your pick.
I'm gonna go classic. We're gonna go in the order we see them in. Let's go see Mel.
Off we go then, to see the spineless little boy.
My throat is not doing good.
We came to pay you a visit, you spineless little boy. Hey, you show up out of nowhere and that's how you greet me? What are you two doing here anyway? We have to talk to you for the behind-the-scenes extra. Do you really think anyone would visit you if they had the choice?
This is an extra, like you said, so can't we make it a pleasant affair?
Also, I know you're calling me spineless, but I don't think I'm that big of a wuss. If you ask for me, I'd say I handle myself pretty well around the white-haired girl by the end of chapter 1. And I definitely put in some good work in the final chapter.
I'll agree with you on the final chapter, but the end of the first chapter doesn't leave the best impression.
Can you really blame me? How was I supposed to predict Nellie would go so far?
No kidding.
Go on, Michelle, the cue cards. Share this spineless child's profile with all the world.
She's enjoying this. Let's see here. It says here, the desire to be loved is one of the themes of Mel's story. His unconditional kindness for others was rooted in that desire.
Could you be any more pitiful, my dear?
I don't think that's a terribly unusual trait. Some people need the validation and love of others to make it through life. That's only human.
See, I told you you'd start getting defensive.
I don't see the point in being so harsh on him in the extra as I was in the main game.
On the subject of the first chapter, I have to say, it really was surprisingly bright and cheerful for the most part.
True, but that was the first one. That was dipping our toe into the horror. It would have been bad if we'd started with a beast. Would have been a little much.
At least until the latter parts of the chapter, things were honestly quite pleasant. I wonder how many readers at that point in the game could have even imagined how brutal and dark the main story would turn out to be.
Interesting. I almost want to go back and watch my episodes there and wonder, like, what the heck. Like, I think I had some thoughts at the end of that first chapter being like, what is this game? Until the second chapter began, I imagine many people thought you were the game's protagonist, Mel.
Not that he couldn't have handled that kind of responsibility, of course. Let me guess, because I'm spineless? It's a question of experience. Only someone who's been through the kind of misery and misfortune Michelle has would have been able to free me. Oh, I didn't know you had it that bad, Michelle.
It's not something I care to talk about.
To start things off, he was physically and emotionally abused by a psychopathic woman by the name of...
Not another word, Morgana.
Well, whatever happened, it sounds like it was rough. You have my sympathies.
Getting pity from you just makes me irrationally angry. Hold still so I can give you a good whack of the jawbone.
What? Whoa, whoa! You just defended me a dozen lines back, and now you want to hit me? You two get along oddly well, you know? There's something about Michel that almost makes me feel like he's my age.
I have a good 10 years on you.
He did spend 13 years locked up in isolation from the world. It's hardly a surprise he stopped aging mentally.
Whoa.
You were locked up for 13 years. Wow, now I really feel bad for you.
Prepare for the beating of a lifetime, boy.
Why? I just said I felt bad for you. Your sympathy is by and large a ruse. Rarely ever do you genuinely mean it.
That's not true. We've gotten off track. Mel is, on the surface, a friendly, kind-hearted young man, but he has a tendency to stumble and cower behind back when things get difficult, in part due to his lack of self-esteem mentioned earlier. And in the final chapter, he started off in a very difficult situation, so he was submissive and a constant source of pathetic complaining.
Spineless and submissive. There's no hope for you, is there?
Ugh. I think he would have made a fairly respectable young man if he could overcome that weakness. The end of the final chapter was, in part, a result of him reaching that point.
See, when push comes to shove, I come through. Have you forgotten why you sold me out? Sorry about that.
One's environment does always have a significant effect on their behavior. Well, that about covers what's on the cue card.
I feel like I just spent the whole time getting railed on. Not that I can blame you, I guess, considering how I acted over the course of the game.
In the end, you did manage to prove a good ally, though.
Thanks. I'm glad I could be of assistance. If you're trying to end this on a pleasant note, I won't have it. Him being somewhat helpful in an alternative version of events that never actually occurred doesn't change the fact that he gave up on me like a spineless wuss he was.
Oh, give him a break, will you? The game's over.
This could be a different game entirely, and I would still hold it against him. Though I suppose I could be a little less incessant about it. We do have a guest, after all. Now I think it's time we went and saw someone else.
What?
You leaving already? That's unfortunate. I was hoping we could maybe go for a walk out in the sun or have a picnic together or something.
So you can weaken me, and then what do you do to me?
If you suggest a walk around the lake, I'll tie rocks to your feet and push you in. Farewell, Mel. Until our souls cross paths once more in the boundless sphere of fate.
Yeah, bye, Morgana, Michel. Alright, let's go see the swordsman.
You want to see him? Well, whatever you'd like. Michel, you go first.
So I can be your meat shield again? Yeah, that guy. He's freaking crazy.
We came to pay you a visit, you psychopathic monster.
Is that what I am?
A psychopath?
If nothing else, you are most certainly the character in this game that poses the most danger to others.
That's fair. Most of the dead ends were on me as well.
You really need to learn to show some regard for human life.
I just lose control of myself. There's nothing I can do about it.
That is murder we're talking about here. Do something about it.
Of course, in the game, of all the characters in the game, he was the most dramatically two-faced. The illustrations in the second chapter were honestly quite shocking. I feel terrible for Pauline.
So, what brings you two here?
It is behind the scenes extra, so we're here to discuss you as a character. The staff even provided us with notes.
I see. Do you not think the setting's worth talking about at all, then?
You want to talk about the setting? You, the Japanese guy who barged in out of nowhere in what was supposed to be a gothic suspense horror game?
Out of curiosity, were you also Japanese in the final chapter?
I couldn't tell you. I don't have most of my memories. What does the staff have to say about that?
From somewhere in Asia.
That's incredibly vague.
That said, there is apparently a reason for the ambiguity. The main theme of your story is boundaries, it says.
Oh wow, I was expecting madness or brutality, or beast, or multiple personalities.
I don't actually have multiple personalities. It's just an act.
That's nothing to gloat about, my dear.
Anyway, it says here you're a character that straddles a number of different boundaries. Sanity and madness, humanity and barbarity. Also,
faithfulness and infidelity.
I committed no infidelity. I never slept with the white-haired girl.
Only because all you need in a relationship is peace and a tether.
You have a point. You conceded that point rather easily.
And once you cross one of those boundaries, you quickly lose control of yourself. You really are a strange man, you know that? You weren't quite so bad in the final chapter, but in the second it was almost unbelievable how downright maniacal you got. I expect my curse had some influence there, though. On that note, it also says here the writer thought chapter 2 seemed unusually long until they realized it was in no small part thanks to Yukimasa's cackling.
That's true. There was a lot of that, and I didn't read it or try and emulate it because people sleep while I'm trying to read these books, and I also probably couldn't have done it.
At least you were having fun.
Of everyone, I'd say I'm probably the most worried about how you turned out after the ending.
I swore I would resist the temptations. I doubt that stopped you from laughing like a madman as you strangle puppies and smash kitten skulls.
God, I wish I could be human. Sounds like some kind of twisted version of Pinocchio.
Once the reveal finally happened, it was almost hilarious how vapid the merchant's character became. Like when he told Pauline, "Perhaps my adoration has grown so strong it has turned you into a transcendent beauty like Cleopatra herself."
Women like to hear such things about themselves. You're terrible. You're terrible.
And then he went and killed one of your crewmates out at sea and told Pauline, "No, there was no trouble," when you got back. You're as black-hearted as they come.
You don't have to tell me. I'm aware. That's an odd point of getting snippy over.
He has no concern whether he's a good or a bad man, only with whether he's a man or a beast.
Again, I am aware. I really hope I never run into him again outside the extras.
Next is the rest of the cast. It's oddly refreshing how forward you are about your atrociousness, despite being so much worse than any of them. It almost makes me think you're as hopeless as not even worth bothering. That doesn't mean I'll forgive you, of course.
At least give Pauline a good life, please. That's not exactly reassuring.
I will do what I can. You know, for all you smile about Pauline, you're about as stone-faced as Michelle around everyone else. In fact, I'd say Michelle has you beat in the final chapter.
We all know his smile's fake, though.
Indeed, as it's only ever been for Pauline, no one else. Both in the second chapter and then the final chapter. Maybe we should rename you the Masked Man.
That makes him sound like a superhero.
You did your best, my dear, and try to blend into society. Now I think we've spent more than enough time with the beast, so let us be off, shall we?
I like his name actually changed.
You're leaving.
Goodbye, Angel, and goodbye, Witch.
How many times do I have to tell you I'm not an angel?
And for what it's worth, I'm not a witch any longer either.
So I'm the only non-human left on the case then. Cast then. How unfortunate. Someone really needs to do something about him.
There's nothing anyone can do but leave him be. Farewell, Yukimasa, until our souls cross paths once more in the boundless sphere of fate.
Farewell. That wasn't awkward at all. And there's only one more. Let's go see Jacopo.
Oh, you want to see him, do you? Well, if that's where you want, I suppose I can take you.
Back to the jazz.
Why, hello there. How's your fragile male ego holding up?
I am genuinely glad to see you. However, I must ask, why did you bring him along with you? Why do you never come see me alone?
About as well as always, I see.
I mean, you're only the best. In fact, there's a great deal I still need to tell you.
And you wonder why I don't want to see you?
You got it pathetic real quick after the final chapter ended, huh?
Damn it. Why do you even see in that man?
He's just a filthy Frenchman with disgustingly long hair. You should talk, man. The hair's one thing, but I can't change where I was born. Not a single darn good thing has ever come out of France. Some say French is one of the 3 great cuisines of the world, but anyone with a functional tongue knows Italian is vastly superior. They call themselves parts of the civilized world, and when in reality they're just a bunch of stuck-up snobs. Simpletons love to fawn over Benyolet's novel. I cannot read French, man. But I tell you, the wine my country produces is far higher quality. Stunned to silence in the fact of the immutable truth, are you? I hope you get lost in the Louvre and starve to death, you bigoted prick. Thanks. Crap.
Ah, look at that. You hurt his feelings, Michel.
I swear, he's definitely in the running for most obnoxious character in the game. So, what brings you two here?
We're here to discuss your character as part of the behind-the-scenes extra. Although I do think Fragile Masculinity does a wonderful job of describing you. You like to make a big show of things, but in reality is, if you had simply swallowed your pride for 2 seconds and said what you felt, told the truth, almost all of this could have been avoided. It's nigh unbearable watching you flounder around like a buffoon.
I almost feel bad for him. Almost. I think you've probably chided him enough, Morgana. He was kind of caught between a rock and a... Shut your mouth, Frenchman. I don't need you to defend me. All I want from you is to know what you're doing with Morgana. You do realize he's a rosy-eyed romantic, don't you, Morgana? You saw him swooning over some silly spring snow for God knows how many lines. Are you telling me the whole exchange wasn't gag-inducing? Seriously, why him? You really are insufferable. Seeing a man overcome with jealousy
is so sad.
Gosh darn it, you just don't get it.
I won't deny Michel's a bit of a romantic, but he's also probably wouldn't lock someone in a tower and throw away any chance they might have at a redemption. So I'd say he's preferable to any of you.
God. Is preferable really the best I can manage?
Furthermore, I do not have any feelings of that variety for him. Michel and I we're gods.
We're what now?
We are those who have been graced by overflowing divinity. We share a special connection, one you could never hope to have.
More like going overboard on drollery. Okay, well, I've had my fun. Let's make our way to another room, shall we? Wait, hold up. What happens to discussing my character? The cue cards I was given for you are blank. What? Oh, it's because he has his own game, doesn't it? That wasn't a sentence. Let me try again. It's because he has his own game, doesn't it? It explores his character there. What? It couldn't be. I'm joking, yes. You're kind of an a-hole, you know? Yes, because you're one to talk. It says here that fundamentally, Jacopo is pure of heart. Huh. Though he acts proud and egotistical, he actually feels a great deal of debt and responsibility to those who allowed him to reach his position of power. He's generally meant well, but has great difficulty actually communicating his feelings. You have no right to get on my case about communication problems, Frenchman. Yours are on a very, very different level. So, there's something I've begun to notice. Your character's a little too similar to mine. Really? In what way? You and I are both pure-hearted types, and we're both born into less than ideal circumstances. But that's not where I take the real issue. To start, we talk too much alike. You try to act a little more polite around others, but in your own, your voice is uncomfortably similar to mine. When I showed up before you in the game, and you know what that means, don't you? You're the copycat. I can't deal with this right now. And besides, I first appeared at the end of Chapter 2 before you're introduced. Ha! My logic is infallible. Your voice, all natural, is actually more childish than your present self. Or did you think I somehow wasn't aware of that fact? You just had to bring that up, didn't you? You could try dropping the tough guy act. Why am I reading backwards? It's not actually attractive. Oh, it's a Morgana. I'm reading everything wrong, man. You could try dropping the tough guy act. It's not actually attractive at all. Well, if you insist, I suppose I could. Simp. Let's go. Wait, I didn't even get a sentence in. You're leaving? May our souls never cross paths again in the boundless sphere of fate. No, let them, dang it! Dang, that kinda sucks. That covers the 3 perpetrators. Next, why don't we pay a visit to those who were close to them? About that, there's something I've been wondering. And what might that be? They weren't directly involved in anything that happened to you, and yet they still seem to have been made guilty by association. That's true. None of them did anything to me specifically. I have no intention of apologizing, though. Morgana apologizing. Now there's a scene I can't imagine for the life of me. That said, I will try to go easy on them. Though I doubt I could come up with much to berate them for. I would appreciate that. Let us be off then. Alright, now I think we're going to go ahead and stop because my throat is struggling with this. I was really hoping I could do it like all the way through and that I would even be able to record after this. But it's already a decently long video and my throat's going to give out. So I'm going to have to just stop it here and double pile up tomorrow, hopefully. Maybe this will help warm the pipes up a bit so I'm better prepared. But I appreciate you guys coming here. It looks like we'll probably be doing this in 2 parts. I anticipate the next part will be like the true finale. Then we'll do the wrap party of this. If you haven't ever been here for one of those, for whatever reason, I simply do a live stream where I invite anybody who's interested to come onto Discord with me, and we just talk about the game, share opinions, and kind of have a back and forth. I live stream it just so that we can get some audience participation, so I can read comments that are left in the chat, so I can I can answer direct questions, and then I link that into the playlist so people can find it. Because live streams on YouTube are interesting, where you'll be able to see them for 2 weeks in my feed if you go looking for it, but afterwards YouTube buries them for some reason. It doesn't really archive them like a video typically, but they're there. You can always get there if you have the link. So I don't know why they bother burying it like they do, but they do. Maybe it's because it can get cluttery. So I save it in the playlist so you can find it later. I've lost a few to the annals of time because I didn't do that. but I'm hopefully, if there's any that are missing, I'll go dig them up. But yeah, this has been really interesting. But like I said, I think this is ultimately a love letter from the writers to the readers. It's the chance for them to kind of like share little details about the characters that might not be super obvious, but they felt were important to bring up. And in a way that just like, again, I think it shows the level of love, dedication, and care that the writers put into these characters. So really fun to see. I aspire to be as good of writers as you, whoever you are. I know this is very unlikely that the people will be able to see this, but I really hope that the writers of this series, wherever you might be or whatever you're working on, know how much I appreciate this game and how much I hope you find great success and continue to work on make things like this, because dang, we need more like this in the world. I actually had a really pleasant experience recently. I did a playthrough on a game called Seabed, another game I highly recommend. Not nearly as dark as this one, but it's definitely kind of the psychological, maybe not, it's kind of a psychological horror, more psychological mystery, I guess. There's an atmosphere to it, but I wouldn't call it horrific. But really good. If you like House of Fata Morgana, honestly, Seabed is a great place for you to go. I think it'd be a good story for you to see. And it was really fun to play through it. Anyway, so I got permission from Fruit Bat Factory to cover it on my channel, and it was fantastic. And I was crying multiple times in it. Like, it was good. But a month ago I suddenly got a message from the representative of Fruit Bat Factory, who I correspond with, and they said, hey, so it turns out the creator of Seabed watched your playthrough of it. And I was like, really? And I went to Twitter, and they'd actually like tagged me in a post because the writer who wrote Seabed watched my YouTube series, and she posted saying that like she was like, I've never been a big fan of the idea of people sharing my content in Seabed on YouTube, and was hesitant to see it happen. But I don't know if she came across my post independently or someone recommended it to her. But she said that she's like, I watched TheBlueShifting's playthrough of it and watched him laugh and talk about and cry about it, and she's like, and it moved me to tears. And she's like, I now am a believer in like people sharing their experiences with stories on YouTube. And like I did a little back and forth and told her like, your game was amazing. I'm so glad I got to play it. The biggest downside is that she doesn't speak very much English at all. And I don't speak any Japanese at all, so we were chatting effectively through Google Translate, so that was an unfortunate barrier. But like to hear her be like, I was so like to be so happy to be able to share that experience with me, and even though she couldn't understand what I was saying, she could feel the emotions I was feeling. That made my day, made my life really. Like I'm going to school and I'm planning on studying Japanese formally. I'm hoping to get like at least functional. And then I want to expand from there, and I'd love to eventually become fluent, both as a career path. I want to become a teacher. It'd be really fun to be able to teach a language. But more specifically, because of my interaction with my hobby, I'd like to be able to dive more into visual novels. And it'd be really neat to be able to like hear visual novels in Japanese and then read it in English and be able to do comparing, contrasting, like some of you do in the chat, like in the comments of my videos. I want to be able to do that too. And especially, I think it'd be really fun to do maybe even like a live translation of something sometime. That would be, I'd love to be able to do something like that. But anyway, so like that was just a highlight, and it's something you can find in my Twitter if you go there. I think it's linked in the description, like in the description box below. But yeah, if you go through I don't post a ton on there, so it shouldn't be too far back. Maybe I should pin that conversation too. I'd love to. But yeah, like go look for that. It was really cool. It made my day. Like it was like this whole channel is worth it just for that conversation alone, and to like make a connection with somebody who has made such a fantastic work. So again, for some reason, if people from the House of Fata Morgana, who made that series, who wrote it, like ever see this, thank you so much for everything you did. Arigato, and all praise for you. Far more talented people than me, and I'm glad I got to share this experience and my reaction and my analysis of it. I like to think I'm more than a React channel. People refer to me as a React channel, and I cringe inside because React channels they're low maintenance, they're low emphasis, and I agree I don't have the most fancy videos, but I like to think I put a lot of me into them, making them more about review and analysis and character breakdown, and less about just posting a reaction. But I think reactions are an important part of that analysis too. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point, but thank you so much for being a part of this. Look forward to the next part, and then the rap party, and then we're moving on to Muv-Luv, because Muv-Luv's got to make a return, and there's been a lot of exciting Muv-Luv news, so I feel like it's a really good time for me to jump into it now, because we'll probably have a lot more concrete facts in a few weeks, and that's when we're going to jump right back into it, so we'll have a lot to talk about, so I'm freaking excited, guys. But anyway, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. Thanks for being a part of this channel. The channel keeps growing. It's so awesome. I can't wait to keep kind of connecting and meeting new people. So until the next video, watching me, have to see me next. I'll see you there.